No, I don't even know.
You listen to the sign-in sheet? Oh,
It's not a good one.
Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Universal City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, March 4th. Call for quorum check.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
here.
Councilmember Bulman.
Here.
Councilmember Goolsby. Councilmember Putt.
Here.
Councilmember Rubal.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Tonight's invocation is going to be another change. It's still going to be pro tem, and I'll leave with the pledge.
Father, as we are here today to discuss important matters for our community, please grant us your grace and wisdom. You are the source of knowledge and understanding, therefore we seek your direction in our discussions. Please watch over all of us, especially anyone facing hardships, and watch over our first responders and military as they keep us all safe. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. First is Councilmember Goolsby is on a work function tonight with Mardi Gras with his company. So take a motion to approve. Got a second?
Second.
Call for a vote.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Putt.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
Aye.
Motion carried.
First up is citizens to be heard. This is an opportunity for citizens to speak on any matter that is not specifically on agenda. And tonight we have one person signed. That's Mr. Heavily. John?
Howdy all. Happy Pancake Tuesday, Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras, whatever you prefer. I have two things. First of all, in the 25 years I've lived in Universal City, I've managed to never be home when my street has been swept. So last week, for the first time, I got to see the street sweeper clean my street. And apart from the obvious, I felt like a little kid watching my garbage truck or something. It was very exciting, sorry. I want to commend those guys for the incredibly outstanding and thorough job they did. Often once the street is swept, by the time I get home, debris has come by, so I never get to see it when it's done. And it was incredible. I had no idea how thorough they were, not just cleaning the gutters, but going around in the middle of the street as well. So many thanks to Public Works, and very specifically to the guys who did the great work. Now the second thing I wanted to briefly mention was fireworks. Had every intention of talking about this in January, but grandkids, so here I am 2 months late. But I take comfort in the fact that people seem to find a reason to shoot them off all year long, so it's still kind of relevant. Full disclosure, I am not a fan of fireworks, thanks to a couple of childhood events. But I recognize that I'm in the extreme minority. Every holiday that seems to invite fireworks, people all over the Metrocom fire them off regardless of whatever statutes we have, whether it's a partial ban or a full ban. I also understand that our law enforcement doesn't have the resources to be constantly patrolling every fireworks call. So this gets my crazy brain into thinking, is there any way for a compromise between safety and this insatiable desire some people have to make lots of noise? So here's something that I wonder, I don't even know if it's worth considering. There may be all kinds of legal or insurance reasons why this isn't possible, but I would love the city to consider establishing, if possible, sort of a legal fireworks zone for citizens, whether that would be at one of our parks or possibly a large open paved area at a church or at a shopping center, something like that. Not for things to be shot up in the air, but things to be done on the ground. That way those who want to do fireworks but don't want to be lawbreakers could be accommodated. and possibly even something that might be coordinated with one or more of the other cities around us. I have no hope of people losing their love for fireworks. I don't foresee me or any of my like-minded haters ever coming over to the dark side. So I have no idea if this kind of a compromise would work, but I would encourage any possible consideration of it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. We're going to switch it up a little bit and do city manager's report, or staff reports first, and then we'll move on into the rest of the council. So,
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report. We're going to go ahead and start with the Xeriscape presentation that Mr. Rubal had requested some time ago. And so Randy was here. Mr. Rubal gave us some parameters that he'd like to see. So Randy is here to discuss that. Also, we have Mark Peterson here, and he is the expert in Xeriscaping, and so he's going to do a little high-level talk with the council about Xeriscaping. Randy?
Mayor, Council, I was fortunate to reach out to Mr. Mark Peterson, who was gracious to be with us today to do a presentation on xeriscaping and water harvesting. And he'll be available to answer any of y'all's questions that y'all may have for xeriscaping. I worked with him several years ago as a Texas forester in our city, dealing with our trees and also he also worked for Solve. And then he's currently on the radio with Calvin Finch every Saturday and Sunday on 9:30 a.m. So he has a variety. Yeah, he has a lot of knowledge on conservation. I think he's right to give this presentation here tonight. So, Mark.
Thank you, Randy. Oh, I'm going to use this one because I think this is nice. Yes, I went back to the Wayback Machine. And I couldn't decide if I had spoken with you all 20, 30 years ago.
We were babies.
Or was it Live Oak or somebody else talking to me? I'm pretty sure it was y'all. As Reggie mentioned, I did a lot of educational activities and wrote some of the ordinances that some of the communities use for their oak oil presentation, or regulation rather. So, I emphasized a lot of education on that. And then I had worked for the Texas Forest Service for 23 years. And then I worked for San Antonio Water System as the landscape consultant. And I had my fingers on or was involved with every program they had in the last 17 years. So, I just wanted to give a small little taste talking about Xeriscape, and if y'all wanted to talk about that a little bit later on, or any of the other programs that Saul has had in the past, we'll talk about that. So tonight, just want to briefly talk about Xeriscape and some rainwater harvesting. I know there's some interested in that. So definition of Xeriscape, because it has been abused across this wonderful area that we have. Definition was written back in the early 70s by Denver Water. They had the 7 principles. I'm not going to go through all 7. I'll just condense it into 3. First one, definition of Xeriscape is that no more than half of the landscape is in turf. Second one is the use of appropriate drought-tolerant plants, preferably native. Not necessarily, but preferably. And the last one is appropriate irrigation. So if you take those 3, you can synthesize and talk about Xeriscape adequately. It does not mean rocks. It does not mean cactus. And it certainly does not mean landscape cloth. We really don't like that landscape cloth. So, although a lot of people believe that's what Xeriscape is rocks and cacti, or some form of succulents. It's really not that at all. A true beautiful Xeriscape is one where no more than 50% of the yard is in turf. The rest are in beds. With appropriate perennials, preferably. Although you can use up to 5 to 10% annuals for color. And then appropriate mulches, wood mulches, pecan shell mulch, cedar shavings, if you will. We want that cypress mulch. And then adequate and appropriate irrigation. A lot of people think that this means drip. Drip can be misused very much. And I have seen when I was with Saws, areas which they were applying 3 to 4 times the amount of water. And I would get a little cranky and go, what, are you growing rice here? What are you applying it for? So always make sure that's appropriate. A lot of people think that they have to apply an inch of water a week. That's inappropriate. Even my good friends in the green industry, they'll say that. I said, when I used to do the calculations for determining what saws would recommend per week, and generally only 4 to 5 times, if that, we'll say 3 to 5 times a year was an inch a week. Other times it was ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch. Most of the year, it's only ½ inch of water needs to be applied. And you may find these things on gardenstylesanantonio.com. I no longer work for Saws, but I always like to program that. That's Garden San Antonio or SA.com. And they have lots of wonderful articles. There's some guy on there, I don't know who he is. He has like over 500 articles over the past 16 years. And fortunately, they haven't gotten rid of them, so you can all go in the archives and look for them all under specific targets. Now, we also want to talk just briefly about rainwater harvesting. A lot of people think that will be the solution to everything. Just have to remind everybody we've been short of water for the last 5 years, so it doesn't really help us. In fact, we were only about 60% of this past January's average, historical average. And right now in February, it was only half the historical average. So you have to have rain to make rainwater harvesting work. An example, a great widget that I created with the San Antonio staff, the San Antonio water staff. You can find this on the gardenstyle.sa.com, where you put in your soil, your landscape, the size of your landscape, the type of landscape you will be watering. And you put that in, and it's already made for you. I created it behind the scenes. So you just put that in, hit apply, and it will tell you what size what rainwater tank that you will need to water all that. Now that's based again on historical averages, so that may not apply recently. For instance, if you have an irrigation system and you apply, let's just say, a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch of water a week, you'll be using anywhere from 1,400 gallons to 2,200 gallons just on 1 week's application. So you just imagine how big your tank will be if you wanted to store the water for 4 applications per month. I am sure that the city of Universal City has regulations regarding buildings in the backyards and height and everything else to that. So just imagine a 22,000 gallon tank in that backyard. Just that. Some of the plants, we have a lot of wonderful nurseries here that deal with native plants, and you can see, and a lot of those, the Rainbow Gardens, Millburgers, who I actually work for on the weekends. Pollinator, one down here in Selma, it's a great little nursery. All have plants that anyone can use or plant that would have pollinator capabilities, sorry about that, for almost 12 months of the year. So we can think that we help all our birds and bees and butterfly friends. Actually, I have 5 now. I've done bees, butterflies, birds, and beetles. Actually, beetles do a lot of pollinating. And of course, bats do a lot of pollination. So I just want to make a really quick presentation on that, saying yes, a lot of people want to do Xeriscape because they want to do the right thing. Most of the time in San Antonio, I have seen it not applied appropriately, i.e. the rocks and the cactus and the landscape fauna. So I am in my education mode every weekend. I also do videos with the Gardening Volunteers of South Texas, and you can see me in these videos, Gardening Volunteers of South Texas.org, going to places across the city, gardeners, private homes, large establishments, and talking about proper gardening, particularly with an emphasis on Xeriscape. That's all I really had, but I wanted to make sure that it opened up for a lot of questions from beyond.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Just in general, when we're kind of talking about maybe setting policy for xeriscaping, it sounds like it's a bigger umbrella than maybe I understood. How do we police that and say, yes, you did xeriscape, you didn't xeriscape, if somebody did something
That's
with
always
it?
a question on that. In the city of San Antonio, would do that as part of a coupon. So that if you had your landscape in a Xeriscape format, you would, then we come out and check and we provide you with a coupon at one of the participating nurseries. So that it was volunteer. Notice. And,
Would it require an inspection from
it
somebody?
would generally requires inspection, although we I spent 17 years trying to figure out ways that I wouldn't have to drive all over town. So, I mean, possibility with photos. I know Solace has moved in that direction. I still think they have to have final inspection on site. But I think they are using photos right now to pre-approve people for the landscape coupon. Which is right now, it's ongoing. It always starts on March 1 or March 2. Yes, sir.
Does xeriscaping save water if done appropriately?
I'm glad you put the caveat on. So, save water as compared to what? So if we had a traditional entire yard of turf, yes, it would, because you're not watering the turf as much as what is, quote, recommended all the time. And so with the use of perennials, you would reduce the water consumption based on how much turf you have and how much of the perennials you have, or a patio. I almost forgot that hardscape. There's 3 parts of a landscape. There's hardscape, patio, or deck, beds, and turf. So if you reduce the turf and increase the hardscape and the beds, you would save water. If it was done appropriately. A lot of people, they want to water all the time. Even on drought tolerant plants which do not need water except for twice a month, once established. So there is potential for that.
Currently, I believe, and Randy can correct me if I'm wrong, that our the ability to save rainwater is limited to a 5,000 gallon tank.
I'm sorry,
I believe that under current regulations of the city of Universal City,
Okay.
we can have approximately a 5,000
Right.
gallon tank for conserving rainwater. And I think
I think,
this,
yeah, so 5,000 gallons is something to help water the pots and the plants and maybe the veggies. Is it going to significantly reduce that person's water bill? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know what their previous water bill or the current one, but.
You hadn't addressed use of gray water. Can
Oh,
you
yeah,
address that?
okay. So, and I sit on a couple of state committees, or had sat on a couple of committees. What is used is the word alternative water. That's the very umbrella group. So rainwater includes in that. San Antonio recycled water is included on that. Condensation water is included on that. Gray water is under that big umbrella, alternative water. So, the state always tends to write really complex rules. Basically, the rules for gray water are that it cannot be a public nuisance, it cannot leave the property, and in several other states, or not other states, other cities, including the city of San Antonio, the disposal end may not be closer than 10 feet from the edge of the property. So if you have it hooked up to the laundry, and I should back up, gray water, laundry, shower, non-food producing sinks. It can be used. And it can be used frequently. In fact, it does not fall under the regulation of sprinklers for in the city of San Antonio. So you can use it quite often. There are some problems with gray water, particularly from the aspect of the laundry. So maybe you're using inappropriate soap, or high salty soap, or high potassium phosphorus soap on that. Maybe there's a lot of debris from the laundry, from the shower, that is clogging up the system. So you always have to watch those things. Is it a potential for watering the landscape? Absolutely. Even the TCQ has certain vegetables which you could use it as. And now I can't remember that exact site or the vegetables, but I know it is allowed. Gray water is allowed on those vegetables.
Are there gray water systems that augment toilet flushing?
Yes, and in fact, some had provided a repay to what is now the UIW towers, formerly the AT&T Southwestern Bell. Ooh, going way back. Yeah. But those towers on the corner, or the AT&T towers on the corner of Hildebrand and Broadway, they used both their condensation and water that would fill the tanks of the elevators in the summer. At that point, in that area, there is what's called non-regulated shallow groundwater, and it's not regulated, and anybody can use it. What they were using, AT&T was using for their toilets, take up the dump from the toilets. I think there's a couple other buildings maybe we're looking at that. I don't remember.
To put things into content text, essentially, Randy and his team will talk to us about acres of water feet.
Yes.
That type thing. Can you, in your experience, give us a generalization about the year's use of a family of 4?
Family of 4 would be approximately 1 acre feet, 1 acre foot. Yeah.
Okay, so
but it depends on the size of the family, size of the lot, all that. But in general, that is the rule of thumb. 1 acre foot is 1 foot of water over an acre, approximately 325,000 gallons a year. Or a year.
more or less a football field filled today.
It's filled with a foot. That's where the acre foot comes from, is but approximately a football field with approximately a foot of water.
And again, that's for a family of.
Yeah. Some water geeks across the country will do it differently. They'll do a family of 4, family of 6, But I think a family of 4 is what we use in Texas.
Yeah, whenever we consider build out and we're adding our population to our population with apartments and so forth, you know, often those families don't have 4. But that being said, the general gestalt is, what about a family of 4?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that insight.
Yes, and like I said, just kind of give you a taste. I recently moved, and so a lot of things are in boxes, and so I turned to Randy, I said, I don't know where my presentation is, and I don't know where all my information is. However, if you are all interested in that, Randy can get a hold of me, and we get some more documentation and more handouts maybe that I can get from the state, which would explain a lot of your questions on that.
One last thing.
Okay.
Have you advised or seen a city that has gone with xeriscaping, gray water, alternative water use, and is there when the city makes a commitment, have you seen a measurable result?
Oh, okay, for if they went total package.
Yeah.
And
Are there?
They had a certain amount of acre feet that they were doing in the year, and they went directly to everything they possibly could do. Maybe some other stuff that could, like the washing. We used to do washing machines. We used to do toilets. We used to do all that. But if they really were aggressive, could they see it? Yes. I'm stalling because I'm trying to think of someone in Texas who may have done it. It was probably more, I think city of Irvine, California. I think they were really aggressive at it. And I will look and I'll say, I'll try to think back and go, I don't know if they achieved the results they were looking for. And I'll be honest. The city of Irvine is probably the best bet.
I'm sorry, I don't know when I get to ask questions, but this is very interesting. Thank you. You talked about using native plants. So in Universal City, we have what we'll call a very healthy deer population.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there are like native plants that are deer resistant.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And that would be one of the things I would have that I can't find right now. But yeah, there are several that's deer resistant plants. We never say immune, no, they're deer resistant in most neighborhoods, certain times of the year. We'll give those caveats. Yes. And right off the top of the head, I'll go salvage, every salvage. The lantanas. A wonderful plant called Dominita. The reason is it has an aroma. So my rule of thumb for plants is it sticky, smelly, fuzzy? What was it? I had fly. Thorny, I guess. Prickly. So if the plants, native plants have those, that probably will do a fry.
Waxy.
Waxy would be good. Cora or periwinkle, Cora series. There you go. That's waxy. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to just briefly go over things and then answer your questions and then provide you with the opportunity that Randy and I can get together in the future and answer any specific questions. And I do appreciate y'all. I haven't done it for a while. After I left the saws, I don't do these things anymore. So I said, Randy asked me and said, oh yeah,
Well, thank you, Mr. Peterson. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you inviting me or allowing me to speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Everyone have a good evening and we can get in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll close that one out and we'll move over to the 5-year budget. I believe you got
I'm sorry, once he's moved in, house, they'll contact him and get copies and brochures and hand it out, and make them available to the general public, particularly in the Development Services Department where they're working on landscape and irrigation projects.
Good evening. I just want to preface the presentation with there's only 3 slides, and it's really, really quick. We just want to get everyone ready for the budget process. So as we prepare for the upcoming budget cycle, it's crucial that the city and staff to begin to start planning ahead. With potential changes being made to state and federal granting options, we must ensure the city is positioned to manage cash flow for future budgets and replacement of essential parts and equipment. So what's going to change? The way the proposed budget is presented, the main change will be that the new document will include projected data for additional 4 years. Council will still only be approving a 1-year budget. And then why are we making the changes? To offer a forward-thinking perspective. And during the budget meetings we had last year for fiscal year 2025, council members requested that staff consider presenting a 5-year budget outlook. But after careful review, staff concluded that approving a 5-year budget isn't feasible, as it would restrict the future council members' ability to offer input. However, projecting future budgets still provides valuable insight for both staff and council. Can you change the slide? Thank you. So here you'll see what it'll look like when you receive it. All the funds will have the same information. It'll include the headers that have similar to the previous budget documents. We'll have prior year actuals, current year budget, actual data as of March 31st, and additional projections for 4 years beyond that point will be included as well. And then the next thing, so what's next? Staff will begin incorporating the information into the budget document, and the budget calendar will be prepared. Our goal is to schedule meetings with all of you for the month of May and then the month of June. And our aim is to have at least 2 meetings, one-on-one with each of you for the budgets, prior to the budget meeting in July, which is scheduled for public hearing. And that's all it was.
Any questions?
So you were to the point.
Actually, I like the proposal, forecasting out for 4 additional years with a anticipated potential trends and then able to follow them. That's an interesting aspect.
Well, we're trying to follow some of the council members' suggestions, like the capital items not being budgeted in the general fund, specifically try to adjust maintenance and operation in those. And with that, we should be able to project our future budgets pretty close to what we want them to be. The thing that will be an anomaly will be some of our revenues, but at least our expenses will be able to kind of target and plan for purchases, like the fire department has some equipment that they need, the police department will need equipment in 5 years. So if we're able to put away $50,000 a year, that 5th year we have enough to purchase the items that they require to have replaced. And that's kind of the goal, is to get us more on track.
Personally, I like the idea. I wish we had thought better sooner. Any other comments?
I applaud that. I appreciate that so very much.
Thank you.
No other comments? We'll close that out. Move into city manager's announcements.
Hi, Mayor, I only have one announcement this evening. The Citizens Police Academy is starting up. Their first meeting is going for the new classes. That is March 18th. I understand that is a council evening, but the Citizens Police Academy put together their own schedules, and they have other things on other nights, so they're going to continue with their Tuesday meetings. But if there's anyone in the audience that would like to join the Police Academy, they are now taking applications, so consider signing up.
Okay, well, I'll start off the announcements tonight. Last week, Mayor Pro Tem and I went to Austin to a seminar on basically public policy. The emphasis of the entire meeting was actually anti-school tax, basically, in a nutshell. There's statewide, there are definitely issues with taxing entities. And right now, the emphasis seems to be potential misuse of some of school taxes, for lack of a better word. Doesn't mean everybody in the school districts are being illegal or immoral or anything of that nature. It's just that management side is. But my concern, or our concern, is the emphasis on school tax is not being separated and lumping it into all the taxing entities. And there's a potential for it affect our ability to regulate taxes at city levels. So I think in your mailbox today, you've got a form letter that kind of, some of the emphasis of taxing, not taking that ability for us to do what we need to do to manage our expenses. We still pay for everything that is used just like you do at home. We have limited income. Our income comes from property tax and revenue tax. So if we're not able to manage our property tax, then we're not able to manage our purchases. And I know it'd be really great to do away with all taxes. And if we can convince San Antonio to give us 2% of their revenue tax, we can do that. But I don't think they will give us 2% of their revenue tax to cover. So San Antonio is not going to be taken care of here. And this is the Northeast Partnership, consisting of 13 cities northeast of San Antonio. We have walked together to basically let our elected officials know not to get into our business. Later on, after that trip, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Putt went to Austin with the other mayors, and they advocated for on that office. I'm going to let them talk about it as it comes along. As they necessary. Enough on that one. We've had numerous ribbon cuttings in the last month. We've got more coming up, which is good news. Some of the companies, though, have been here for a while, so we're just now getting around. I think today's was the First Command. They've been here for a number of years, but they had an official opening. We've got one coming up, a new one is going to be Clean Eats, which is a nice little food and clean operation, which actually, if you haven't tried it, it's surprisingly good. Yesterday, I know you think healthy's not good, but actually, really, I think you'd be impressed. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Putt, and myself were at Olympia Elementary yesterday afternoon in honor of Dr. Seuss's birthday. So we got to read, and I had a ball. I had one challenging individual who had his favorite thing was painting. He was an excellent artist, and I asked him exactly what's his favorite thing to draw, and he said he's an expert in drawing stick figures. I had to shake his hand. With that, pass it on to Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. It was a really interesting week in going to Austin, both from the policy summit information and just kind of hearing what people were talking about. That was everything was in the room from the Department of Agriculture, Secretary of, from Washington to our Austin state elected officials to just regular people. And they were all talking about what was important to them. And it was really noticeable it was very anti-city because we were so lumped in with all of the school tax dollars. And so it was a very eye-opening experience for me. It told me that we needed to be advocating for ourselves at the city level. One of the things Tom and I were sitting with different people at different times, and Tom consistently asked him, well, how much do you think it costs to run a city? Let's just break it down. Let's buy one fire truck. And they were like, oh, well, that'd be a lot. I think it'd be like $100,000. Well, we know from meeting in here last year when we approved to buy 2 fire trucks 3 years from now, it was basically $5 million. And so there's a real out of syncness with what they think it costs to provide mandatory services for our citizens. I mean, that just gets into public safety. We need to make sure that we are all safe. So I am definitely, it was eye-opening for me, and it makes me want to stay very connected and paying attention with what's going on in Austin. And then when Lori and I did go up to Austin the next week with the mayors, we went and knocked on doors and sat down and talked with people and said, we were talking specifically about property taxes and land use, because we really wanted them to understand how important that is from our perspective to have a strong say in it, because they don't know what our city's like. We're not San Antonio. We're a very unique city. We're right outside of a military base. We can't grow anymore. So we really spent time, and they really seem to appreciate and resonate with that. And we exchanged contact information. So Lori and I would encourage all of us to spend time going up there this spring. There's passing a lot of important legislation. There's going to be a lot of bills that impact us, and we want to make sure they understand how we think that they impact the city. But I would encourage each of you to also be paying attention because they impact you as residents and what decisions are being made for you at that state level that we're not paying attention to. So that's all.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Ms. Putt?
What she said. No, it was very interesting going up to Austin, and we were treated beautifully, I feel, and I want to thank our deputy clerk, city clerk, for going. She was highly educational. She really knew her stuff going up there. Kind of talked to us as we were getting ready to go in and talk to these people of what the good points were, and she was very comfortable with it, and that made us very comfortable with going into the situation. One of the things that was surprising to me was the disconnect between Austin and our cities. I mean, it's complete. They want to take away our ability to do our zoning. You know, they don't know that we're a small town, that we need to renovate, we need to renew, that we've got to change some zoning. They actually don't know this. And so that and the property tax was some of our main points. And so we plan on going back. They said, as we left, be in our face, write us, call us, come up. You don't have to be organized. Come up and let us get to know you. And so hopefully we'll keep going up, but it's really, really important that we be able to control what money we have so we can pay our fire, so we can pay our public works, so we can pay our police, pay our bills, and to be able to say in our city what can go where, because they don't care. They're just looking at a map. That's all they're doing up there. So pay attention, and it really was an honor to go up and represent Universal City. It really was. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Don't come around.
Nothing for me tonight.
I just want to encourage you, Mr. Peterson talked about, you mentioned Oakville just briefly, and Oakville is something I'm always worried about. I know we try to do some education, but if he looks at our policies and says there's some things we can do to maybe help with Oakville, I'd be really open to his ideas on that as you guys further your conversations.
I think he addressed that in the beginning of his comments. He has been here, he did initially talk to us about Oakville, but he also said that Oakville should not be a policy, that in his belief that Oakville should be about education. And so, yeah, maybe we'll speak with him. I'm not going to put Kathy on, but maybe we can get him to do a short video for us that we can put out or something of that nature, talking about Oakville. Sometimes I feel like we kind of talk about it with people till we're blue in the face. It's kind of like kids they're really not listening to. They're looking at you, but they're not listening to you. But maybe we can find other means of getting that Oakville information out, because you're right, Mr. Vaughan, it's becoming more prevalent in the city.
And then my only other comment was, I'm not allowed to address the audience, but I do think there were some good ideas about the fireworks brought up, and I'm wondering if that would be worthwhile to have on a future agenda and talk to see if that is a possibility. And then about maybe if the city can select, not selectively, but if there is some fines that can be imposed, and maybe the word gets out that if they catch you, you might get a fine, then maybe that would also help force it a little bit. So maybe that might be a future agenda topic. Can I still get to that?
Let's get with.
There is a fine in place already.
And do we actually use it?
Well,
Gotta catch them.
We give a lot of latitude on those two nights in particular.
Kind of hard to rain on somebody's parade.
But there have been written.
Sorry, John.
I know where it's.
Anything else?
That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ball? Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, red flag, wind warning. Basically, red flag day as far as fires and so forth. So basically, what perhaps we would like to see, I would like to see in the future, is some identification of how our city is protecting itself, perhaps with fire breaks, particularly in the Cibolo Creek area, protecting properties that are adjacent to that. Obviously within the south side of San Antonio, we have a tremendous fire going on right now. type thing. And obviously supporting the fire department for that. So consideration of our unique situation in that a significant portion of Universal City abuts a dry forested area and how to protect from that. The second thing is perhaps in the future, Randy will give another follow-up to essentially the consideration of working with CPS. A 3-year program was proposed, but we haven't seen anything yet with regard to essentially clearing the trees, making sure that the power lines are adequate. I know it's going to be a 3-year program. To my knowledge, it hasn't actually started yet. But there were 120 residents affected just in shirts today with regard to power outages, mostly related to wind damages. I know we've kind of brought that up before, but if we can have that formalized in a future meeting, that would be great. The other comment has to deal with a joint meeting between Council and Planning and Zoning and the 335 Planning Comprehensive Plan type thing. It was built as a workshop, but it really wasn't executed as a workshop. It was more a survey response for 15 questions. It was kind of limited. There are some interesting things that came up out of that, however. And one was a statistic that dealt with how many of our people leave the area per week to do things outside. And it was relatively small. And so after that meeting, I started thinking, why is that? Why do I stay within Universal City? Where do I go? H-E-B, Walmart, CVS, and my auto mechanic, that type of thing. Those are the areas that I go to. And then I thought, thinking a little bit on a larger scale, where is our downtown center now? It's where people are going. H-E-B, Walmart, and CVS. Okay, so basically when we consider developing downtown in this comprehensive plan, let's sort of do what the college, the Ivy League college up in the Northeast did. Let's follow the path of the people to essentially their service. And I'll throw in the college, Northeast Lakeview College. A tremendous number of people go to Northeast Lakeview College. What was not discussed in this planning and zoning workshop type thing with council was infrastructure, waste management, alleyway, and waste management as far as waste management services to the alleyways and so forth. There are a lot of things that I wish we had time to bring up. And finally, essentially last meeting, I brought up the fact that the $25 fee for in-kind fence repair didn't make a lot of sense, neither for the residents nor the city. And basically I was challenged on that, rightfully so, and got more information type thing. And this is the data, updated from the presentation that Michael presented. Instead of 114, there were 117 reported $25 fence permits, netting the city a total of $2,925 to execute those permits. It cost the city $3,374, but there's a caveat. That only included 52 of the 117 inspections for whatever reason. Perhaps essentially a resident just hadn't called to have a return service or was doing one slot at a time or whatever. It doesn't matter. For that reporting time period, there are 65 more inspections that have to be done that will be a total cost somewhere between $5,584 to $6,494, depending upon whether the city inspectors use or our private contract inspector. The $25 fence permit for in-kind replacement fences makes no sense financially for the city. So I would enjoin, that's probably the wrong word, I would ask council to reconsider a vote for this on the next meeting, and I'll rest with the council vote.
Are you suggesting, since it's $25 is not enough, that we raise it up to $100 so that we make it more feasible?
If the fire department wants to entertain tar and feather, the residents' tar and feathering, probably.
I really and truly think it was closed last week, at last meeting. I don't think we need to address it now.
Mr. Mayor,
let's
you
move
do not
forward.
have the.
Let's move forward with that one. Boy, you could have the data. Right over there. Thank you.
I thank you also, Mr. Mayor, for your time.
I know you're not feeling real well, so let's take the rest of the meeting.
You're right, I'm not feeling well tonight, Mr. Mayor. And I'm here.
Good, we're going to move up to the consent agenda. All matters listed under this item, we only have 1 minute at the last, and I'll take a motion.
Move to approve. A second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Putt,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman. Aye. Councilmember Rubal, Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Approved. We have 2 action items tonight. One is the interlocal agreement for radio connectivity infrastructure project between Universal City and Live Oak.
Mayor, Council, as you know, when it comes to public safety and public safety communications, we are very much interlocked with the city of Live Oak, according to the chief's radio. And so a lot of the ways that we communicate with them are outmoded. So this is to bring us into the 21st century, to provide us with some dark fiber and to provide redundancy between the 2 cities. And so we worked with Live Oak to come up with this interlocal agreement. I hope my cover sheet explained it thoroughly. If you have any questions, either Chief Siemens and I are here to answer them.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Call Mr. Rubal.
What is the dark network? Or, what the redundant dark network? That sounds ominous.
So to back up real quick, I want you to understand something that their initial proposal, LCRA's initial proposal for this redundancy was $300,000. With my background in IT and Jake Vieira, Captain Vieira from the fire department, and working with Live Oaks, our colleagues in Live Oak, we were able to get this down to this much more palatable dollar amount with what I think, in my professional opinion, a better solution also. So I want you to work very hard to drive those costs down. So the dark fiber, sir, to your question, to your point is, by the way, good evening, everybody, is the fiber that's already in the ground and laid but not being used or leased yet. So it's kind of independent of the fiber that is being used. Sometimes it's in the same ditch, oftentimes it's not. This particular solution will be different ditch, dark fiber. In other words, true redundancy. So if AT&T's fiber, which we currently use, is cut, this particular dark fiber lays in a different ditch, likely uncut, and therefore providing us a redundancy to the microwave towers that we need to have radio use. So absolute critical communication requirements, and for a very, very low cost, relatively speaking.
And we don't have this redundancy now.
We do not, sir. No, sir. We have a single way out. That's the AT&T fiber line, which it goes down. Now, what we do have is Live Oak is ours, and we are theirs. They would take over our communications for us, and we would just have to either do phone calls or we would pair up. We have some plans in place to ensure that we can perform our duties, but they are much more cumbersome. This provides us a much more, really a flawless, redundant way of transmitting our radios and communicating.
And where will this be budgeted? Will it be out of the police department or out of the general fund?
So they have seized assets, federal and state seized assets. They also have police equipment that they sell that they have got the funding for, and they can use any of that for this particular project. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, call for the vote.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Putt,
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal,
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
It is.
Motion carried.
Approved. And we have a consideration renaming Cimmaron Park.
Thank you, Mayor. This was a recommendation that was brought up, I believe, by Mr. Rubal at a past council meeting. We didn't give any feedback to council right away on that because, as you know, we have a Parks and Rec Commission. One of their jobs is to do is they oversee parks and they oversee the naming of the park. So we have Mr. Harry Westerfield and Miss Janet Tennis here this evening from Parks and Rec. So they did consider this at their meeting, when was their meeting? Last week? Last Tuesday. And they have recommended renaming Cimmaron Park and the Cimmaron Clubhouse to Neville Park and Neville Clubhouse. So that is here before you this evening.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to see if maybe we can have a plaque there too that gives a little bit of history of the park and maybe what happened to get it to where it is now. I always
Sure.
like those kinds of things.
We'll do all of that. So obviously, we haven't spent any time or money without council's approval. So we've had some general discussions because there's obviously needs to be signage and plaque and dedications and all of that stuff that needs to happen. When that does happen, obviously, we will have a big should-do about it and incorporate all of that in there. But as we start moving toward the end of that and we're getting ready for that, we'll let council know all the actions that we're taking to rename it and to get the plaque and stuff up.
Are we thinking of naming it Neville Park?
So we're going to call it Neville Park and Neville Clubhouse and not the Richard F. Neville Park and Richard F. Neville Clubhouse. Because, you know, we already have the Ina Blake Dog Park, the ones everybody refer to as the dog park.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes very complicated for people when they're trying to look up what we have. So our intent is to rename them, you know, on all of our websites and the signs that are there, but on some kind of a plaque on the building, as Mr. Vaughan had said, dedicated to Richard F. Neville, Richard F. and Carol Neville, and then indicate why we're doing it for their years of service to the community, not just our community, but the military community and, you know, the Catholic community in this area as well. So we'll try to get all that on a nice plaque, which will go on the building.
Any other comments? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Aye.
Councilmember Putt.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
Aye.
Motion carried.
It is my honor to gavel in Chief Master Sergeant Neville. With that being said, no one come in. Adjourn.
We're going to
For my wife. And
Yeah. I know.